Welcome again to Mystic Revolution. We are in season 4. We are talking about strengthening our soul senses, what that means, what you can do with that, and how it can help in your life and help you help others. But before we dive into today's topic, let's take a moment and do a little meditation. So I invite you to close your beautiful eyes and just take a nice deep breath in. And just let yourself settle into yourself. And just notice your body. Notice where your body ends and the space around you begins. And let yourself really tune in to the earth. Let yourself feel the weight of that body, the strength of that body, the vitality. As you ground yourself and you connect deep down into the earth. You can even envision or imagine putting down roots. And then allow yourself to turn your awareness up above, and see if you can envision the idea of a beautiful ball of light. Perhaps it's the sun, perhaps it's a bright, bright star. It is your connection, your portal to source, to the universe, to all that is. And let it just be super bright, like almost so that you can sense the shimmering rays of it on the top of your head and on your skin. And in fact, let's allow some of those rays to come down and just wash over you gently and easily, softening and releasing anything that is not serving you. Any tension in your shoulders or your back, just allowing it to wash over like just a waterfall. And then for fun, because we're playing with energy, see if you can pull some of that, let it just pull in, fall in into your body. And fill up your body like a beautiful vase, like a bottle or a bathtub, filling up out to that line where your body ends and the space around you begins. And see if you can envision yourself, your own beautiful self, as a being of light. And we'll go ahead and ground again, just for good measure. And if you like, you can stay in this state, play in this state as Wendy and I converse, or you can just softly, gently open your eyes and join us in the conversation. Hi, Wendy. Here we are again.
Hello.
So last time we were talking about soul senses or psychic sensibilities and why they're useful, how we can use them in positive, life-affirming ways with discernment, with responsibility, with compassion. And this week, we're going to talk about what it's like to be on the receiving end of a reading. Right? Lots of people like to go get psychic readings. So I'd love for you to dive in and share your thoughts on that.
Yeah. And I'd like to contextualize and say, we're talking to all kinds of mystics in this show.
Yes.
And many mystics are aware that part of the mystic journey is to be informed by our inner senses. And that's kind of a big part of the game. And I found, and I think you have too, that it helps to develop this. And it can be done opening to all of our inner senses and trading that back and forth and receiving and giving. So I just want to contextualize. Some people are coming to this from a, oh, I just want to listen to God thing. And but how do we develop our ears to hear and our eyes to see to do
Yes.
that? And one is to practice.
Yes.
So anyway, that's context. So the first thing I want to talk about is I love the sensibility word that we used for last time. It just gave like the context and some of the discernment, and that's always something that I believe we're building. Um, it's it's a spiritual, just like all the things we talk about, it's a spiritual blessing from heaven and earth. It's a vibration,
Yes.
and it's also a practice. Um, so a lot of what we're going to talk about today will be around our own discernment, because even when we're receiving or if we're giving, we still need to be discerning. We'd never get out of the driver's seat. It's always our responsibility for whatever information is coming at us. What do I do with it?
I think that's such an important point to make. And I don't believe that everybody thinks of that when they go to have a reading or a healing or get kind of guidance from someone else, guidance or validation from someone else. I think last week you said you are the authority, and you
Yeah.
absolutely are. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So somebody outside of us can help us see or encourage us to see, but it's just so important for me to be just like, that doesn't taste right. That doesn't smell right. That doesn't feel right. Okay. Well, there's things to do about that.
Mhm.
And we can just say that now. There will be things that are like, this is, oh gosh, that's so validating. Thank you. And it might be things that we like and things that we don't like, and that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just still validating to have somebody see our own motivations or what happened with us or what our a deep desire is. It's just so encouraging of us, and it can feel like love. It can feel like acceptance to have somebody else see us so well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really
Eh,
can. And when a good reader can do that, I mean, it can change everything.
Yes, and then my teacher liked this one because she liked to reinforce that getting and giving a reading is a healing
Yes.
in itself, just the information. And she said she liked this one story about a woman came and she was in a really abusive situation and she felt stuck, she had to stay, she couldn't get divorced, blah, blah, blah. And then she, the reader was like, this is what's happening and this is what's going on. And she just got validated. And then she had what she needed to be just like, oh, this is real. I'm out of here. I'm not putting
Yeah.
up with this crap anymore.
Yeah.
Like she just could turn when she couldn't turn. It's huge.
Yeah.
And I know for me, there was some deep abuse stuff from my youth that it was just so helpful to have somebody else see from the outside and be just like that, that really happened. That was really not okay, and
Yeah.
it was so healing. So
Yeah.
anyway, there's the part where it's so validating. And then there also likely will be things that it's just like, I don't understand, or it doesn't sit right, or I actively like, that's not right.
Yeah.
So stuff like that can happen, and that's also very useful. So what I encourage is just be neutral. Just let whatever, we like it, we don't like it, doesn't matter. It's just information going by,
Right.
and can I not attach or resist? That's the thing.
I think that's so important. Can I take what I need and leave the rest behind?
Hmm.
I just listen and be like, "Oh, that's interesting. Maybe, maybe not." I mean, I know what I've found both in giving and receiving is that maybe I've said something and it doesn't resonate with the person right away, but several weeks later they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, that thing that you said," right? Or I've had like someone read me and say something and I'd be like, well, I don't know what they're talking about. And then like 3 days later, I'm like, oh my gosh, they actually saw that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So the idea is just, there's a whole buffet of information. There's just usually more than we can eat. So it's just like, what do we want to eat now? What do we want in our doggy bag? And it could be a few days later, if I'm not resisting or attaching to the information, I might get that aha moment of they help me see something that I didn't see, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they're just off,
Yeah.
and that's
Sometimes they're
okay
just off.
too. Like we're all just humans, right? Like they're not God, like they're not the big God. They're not the
Right.
all-knowing, omniscient God. And so can we just be like, okay, that was helpful and this isn't great.
Well, and I think that goes back to, again, you are the authority. I mean, someone may be off. Like this is, and I know this seems like obvious, but unless what you hear like is really validating of something that you already know, or it's opening your eyes and giving you personally like a new perspective on something, right? Just sit with it. No action has to be taken, right? Don't, and I'm, this goes back to one's own discernment, one's own ability to honor what their heart and soul is saying, and to take responsibility for themselves and their actions. I've
Yeah.
had people come to me and like say, well, I wanted to get a reading for you because I had a reading from someone else and they said this and it made me mad, or it was wrong, or I followed what they said and then this outcome. And part of your responsibility in getting a reading is to be responsible with the information in the same
Yes.
way you would be with a best friend who trusted you with a secret, or
Yes.
right, be responsible with the information.
Yeah. So staying in the driver's seat, like we choose. And uh, like you, I had somebody come to me, a reader that I trained came to me the other day with something. She's like, I don't know. This doesn't feel right. And I look, and it's just like the person had looked through their own set of, colored glasses. So it's like they weren't wrong, but they saw it through their own colored glasses. And then they told my friend.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm just like, here's what I see. Here's the colored glasses. You take them away. Now it's useful for you. She's like, damn, now it's useful for me. Right. So it's just like that's what part of training is to keep taking off um these already always assumptions about how things are that can color our reading, clean the mirror.
Clean the mirror. Yeah. And I mean, now we're getting into sort of the other side of being a responsible reader, but I mean, this is just, I think can be helpful in any situation. Be aware of when you're doing that. Are you really clearly perceiving? Are you projecting?
Mm.
Are you seeing your own stuff? And this is where the practice comes in of being able to get totally neutral,
Yeah.
being an objective observer. Right? I like to think of it as like, going up in, the watchtower or at the top of a mountain, getting that 360-degree view and being neutral about it. So we all can, right, see and sense all the things and discern what is
Mhm.
most relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and while we're on this, another thing is that how do I, like we talked about last time, what's a healing to say? Not just
Yeah.
of the specific information, but who am I being about it? Am I contextualizing it so that they can understand it? Am I bringing in judgment? Am I bringing in invalidation? Am I neutral? But I like to help them see where the healing is in it.
Yes.
It's just not leaving them in something's wrong.
Totally. And I think, this kind of thinks if we sort of had different steps to it, right? Like being the objective observer helps you get the most information or the right information. And then using your discernment about what is a healing. How do you take that and what do you share out of that so that it is helpful to someone, doesn't just leave them, reeling in something wrong or just for whatever reason, just giving them information that they don't really can't really do anything with.
And if I'm receiving a reading, like as in my position, I receive readings and I have to sort out the judgment. I have to sort out the invalidation. I have to sort out the taking it seriously, the pictures of how it should be, that kind of thing. But if I'm like, I would encourage whoever's like going for reading yourself as a person, if you're receiving judgment, if you're receiving shoulds and oughts, then I encourage you that you should leave. Like it's like, why are you paying for that? That is not neutral.
Yeah.
It's not spiritual perspective to be receiving a whole lot of judgment and invalidation. And I would say, it's not in alignment with source. It's not in alignment with the sacred truth to be judged and invalidated.
Yeah. And I remember, I'm just keep thinking of readings that I've had. A reading that I had with someone where it was a bad thing had happened in a relationship that I was in. And the person got so emotional about it. And like how wrong, this other person was and how bad it was. I mean, that's not really
Yeah,
what I needed. I
right.
mean, I could have got that from a girlfriend, right? Or
Yes.
whatever, right? Um,
Yes.
what I wanted was that clear guidance. And yeah, so that's why it's super important to keep your, I mean, there's right, compassion. Compassion is entirely different than letting your emotions get into whatever it is you're doing, right?
Right. Yeah. So we're just kind of swirling around this discernment and how to listen. And I'm just going to transition a little bit to some basics. And this is also around integrity. Like if I'm receiving a reading as a person, not a teacher, if I'm receiving a reading that is the person isn't discernment, all these things, they're not in alignment, they're not giving me information that is helpful, there's a lack of integrity, then I need to be informed by that because that lack of integrity is woven how I might not see it through the whole reading.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to note, along with all the seven keys and all the things we talked about, as you said, in the energy mastery. It's just so important, all these seven keys of having neutrality and amusement and certainty and all these things are directly related to receiving and giving a
Both.
reading. Because if I'm not as neutral as I can be receiving, it doesn't matter how neutral they are. I'm just like a powder cake, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not a healing. Like
It's not
they're
a
just feeding
healing.
my fire then. And
Right.
or I'm wrong, they're wrong, something's wrong, God's wrong, and the world is wrong, right? Like that is not a place for me to be able to receive anything useful.
Yes,
So saying hi to those seven keys is just very helpful as a readee as well as a reader.
I agree. I think I'm calling the break, so I'm gonna can we
Okay.
jump back into that when we come back?
Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hey everyone, just a friendly reminder that on the first Tuesday of every month, we hold a Mystic Revolution meditation, and you're invited. Just go to our website and you'll find the link. We look forward to seeing you then.
Raise your vibration and energize your life with specialized Fibonacci tuning forks that deepen meditations and empower self-healing. Get your vibrational sound tools for personal enhancement at energybodytuners.com.
Welcome back from our little break. And Wendy was underscoring the importance of the seven keys or seven principles that we've talked about in previous seasons. You just want to review those real quick because I think it's something that can be repeated time and time again.
Yeah, allowing our own power, the power of the divine to be flowing through us,
Yeah.
having integrity, which is in alignment with our source and alignment, having coherence in ourselves and doing what we say, that kind of thing. Certainty, that soul certainty that my inner information is real for me. Amusement, that taking it lightly in my soul, being playful. Neutrality, having spiritual perspective and not falling into judgment, and seniority. That I'm in the driver's seat, as I keep saying. We're sovereign in our space, and
You
we
are
get to
the
choose.
authority. Yeah.
Yeah, we have the authority. And so these things really help us both as a giver and a receiver, as we just said. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, I just think that those are really great principles to live by. And I think, we're going to talk more about the different soul senses or clairs and really tuning into the idea of your own radar and how to work with that, and sort of setting this foundation we felt was important, because the more you lean into I'm just going to say, the earlier you start leaning into these 7 principles around your own soul sensibilities, I really feel the better off you are. You can really, I'm just going to say, gain ground more quickly in sort of activating and actualizing these capabilities. And you get more into the zone of ownership and responsibility, rather than just like sort of being at the mercy of all the things that show up, which can be overwhelming.
Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the whole point. These things are meant to help us have a solid place to stand in, to navigate and to make the changes to be healthy
Yeah.
within our souls. And this is also important as we perceive. Like amusement is neutrality. I mean, for me, those are the most important things. And when we open to the psychic world, it can be a show. I mean, there's a lot of shit going down. And it's so easy to get hooked in, to get scared, to get resistance, there's stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
And we might see horrible things. And can we just be with it? Because if we can't be with it, then we can't generously show up for someone else and help them navigate it.
Yeah. That's such an important point.
Yeah.
Being able to be with it, because ultimately, and in the work that we do, and the work that we do with ourselves, right? Coming to terms with our own dark stuff, our own shadow stuff, being able to be with that. I mean, that's how we can heal and become whole. And as a reader or a healer, I just say you have to be able to be with that with other people.
Yeah.
Without judgment, just being with it. And when you can get to that point, then more useful information is revealed that both you and the person you're working with can use. Yeah.
Oh gosh, it used to drive me nuts. It used to drive me nuts when I first was reading. I'd be just like, can you give me the whole picture? And I'd be just like, I can only see as far as my flashlight, and I need to see the whole picture before I tell them. Right? I'd have this like push and pull spirit, and it'd be just like, just say what you see. And I'd be just like, need to see the whole picture, and I always lost this conversation because I had to say something. And so, I'd see this and then see more. And I think that happens in part for us as readers to just trust the process, but also the person who's receiving. It's like we need to be able to take human bites. We need to be able to integrate step by step. Somebody who's giving us way too much information or way too much healing it's not a healing anymore.
Yeah.
It's just a barrage. So I think it was part of my learning to just take it easy and talk about till the end of the flashlight and then go on.
Yeah.
And I mean, that might seem to be paradoxical together with the bird's eye view, the top of the mountain view you're talking about. I don't notice it so much anymore. It was when I was learning. I needed to learn to see human bites, to be able to say human bites And now I just give you in bites, even though if I might see a whole lot.
Yeah. I don't think that those things are paradoxical at all. And, again, that goes in to discernment, but integrity, right?
Mhm.
Honesty, and then also compassion.
One of the things I didn't draw out in the 7 keys is free will and how important it is to get our free will back.
Mhm.
And that includes in getting readings. Let me just say giving readings, avoiding advice, predicting the future, programming, because in free will, the person needs to be able to make choices. So we can talk about the future, but it's a matter of their choice.
Yes.
I think that's just really important. If somebody's telling you what's going to happen all the time, that takes away your free will. It could program you.
Yeah.
And I've already said, but how important spiritual perspective. I mean, that's what we're talking about, the top of the mountain or the bird's eye view or the spiritual perspective in the center, from the center of the head. This all can be like a sacred mirror, and it can really help us transform both readers and readees. And that's just extraordinary. Like everybody who's part of that gets transformed, and it can get like so delicious to be in that dance. That we just continue, even as if we haven't in receiving readings, sometimes to continue to develop all these senses, but our own senses, so that we are not dependent on others, or we can be interdependent. I think from my perspective, that's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody that is interested in soul senses or psychic capabilities, being able to do the reading yourself, for others, like being able to sit in both seats is really, well, I'm going to say it's important, but it gives one a whole different experience. I think I'm going to say a richer experience, and also is just like a little safeguard of not slipping into just doing something because someone said something, or allowing yourself to project or unconsciously program out of your own woundedness. We'll talk more about all of this stuff this season, but I think we've got a good start, and I really appreciate your sharing your wisdom and setting the stage for this episode.
Thank you, Susana. You too.
Yeah. And
so, are you ready to do a quick meditation?
We're ready to do a quick meditation out. So I invite you to just close your eyes and just settle into yourself. And allow yourself to take in what seemed interesting, what resonated, what maybe you want to sort of pack away and chew on for a while. And leave the rest behind. Let go of anything that might have poked at you a little bit. Let go of anything that made you question your worth or your ability. We're just sharing information based upon our own experience. In all of this, that's all it is. Let's go ahead and take a nice big deep breath in. And allow yourself to ground yourself in your own power, in your own connection with the God of your heart, with Source, with your sacred truth. Knowing that you are the authority, you are the captain of the ship, and that you have the ability to access and use and play with all the things in exactly the way that best suits you. All right. With that, we say thank you so much for joining us once again. And we will continue this conversation next week. Look forward to seeing you then.
Thanks so much for playing with us. Please support Mystic Revolution by liking and sharing our show.
And sign up to get notified when new content is available. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Have a happy always.
Join us for our monthly Mystic Meditation on the first Tuesday of the month at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time.
Click on the link in the description to get more information and join the Mystic Revolution.
We look forward to seeing you then.